Hi guys, my name's Sancha. I'm here with Femme Fatale TV, and today we've got a very special guest. But first, we just want to shout out all the females that have come through and supported us on our journey, and we hope that 2025 is going to be bigger, bolder, fiercer, brighter, better. You know the drift. I'd like to introduce you to our first guest, Tallia Storm.
Hi everybody! Oh, I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, we're so pleased to have you. This is amazing, especially for Christmas.
Yes.
I want to jump straight into it. How's it all been going with you in terms of music this year?
Amazing. I just released my Christmas EP.
Yeah.
Now, I've wanted to do Christmas for so long. Like this idea of defrosting, I'm like Mariah's biggest fan. And I was like, I think just now is the time. I spent the summer in Los Angeles working on all my music for next year, and I thought so much has gone on behind the scenes that I've actually not put out much music this year. So I was like, this is perfect. It's going to set the tone for 2025. And I think every Christmas I want to drop at least like 1 or 2 songs so that by the time I'm like 30, 35, I've got like a Christmas repertoire.
Tell me something. So you've got a single that's called, is it Auld Lang
Syne?
Auld Lang Syne. Do you know, well, obviously you do because you wrote it. What's the meaning behind that?
So this is obviously Robert Burns. It is the Scottish song. It's a New Year's Eve song. But in Scotland, we actually sing it quite a lot. We've got like Burns Night, Burns Supper, and I always sing it at like the Christmas parties and the Burns Nights. I actually sang it at Boysdale in, I think it was 2 Burns nights ago, so it's January. And I was like, you know what, this is actually a Scottish song. I'm Scottish, let's just embrace it, let's own it. And I wanted to do it for ages. And then the first one is like my twist on it, and then the second one is the jazz version, because my roots are jazz, and that's what I listen to 24/7. My dad's a jazz pianist, and that's what I grew up on. But I actually don't have any music out that reflects that much compared to the music that I have on my phone that I've done over the last 10 years. I think that my goal now is to just get the music out that I've spent so long on instead of just keeping it.
And I love that you always try different things as well, that's not necessarily sort of like status quo. And your background's really different, because I love that you mentioned Scotland. Like, growing up in Scotland, what was the music opportunities like there?
You know, Scotland really made me who I am in terms of it's freezing. You kind of lived indoors. And the funniest thing is I'm always complaining about how cold I am. And everyone's always like, Tallia, but you're from Scotland, you should be built for it. But I'm like, no, because it was so cold, we actually never went outside. Like, we stayed indoors, and we'd always like go around to other people's houses and wouldn't even go in the garden because it's just frost. Anyway. So I think just being in the house all the time, I used to sit on YouTube and just like spend hours and hours watching the greats, and you know, I was obsessed with Erykah Badu when I was younger.
Amazing.
And it was definitely because of my parents, because we'd go to school and they would play that era, whether it was like, we'd have different eras, we'd have like our Stevie Wonder era, we'd have our like Jill Scott era, and then suddenly I was this young girl like obsessed with like this kind of this world, and I just wanted to be in it so badly. And all thanks to my parents, to be honest, because my dad plays jazz piano, so he was very strict in that before I could even, you know, pick up an instrument, I had to be able to read music and put in the hours. And I'm really thankful for that. I played the flute when I was younger, and that was like my instrument. And I'm just really grateful that without them, I definitely wouldn't have this love and passion for music that I do have.
It's evident. It comes through. And what you've actually answered so many of the questions I have for you, because I was going to say, as a child, like, what age did you really find like your passion for music, or when did you discover that you actually had those vocals?
I think I used to sing everything, and I used to just put on like plays, and I used to force my sister to be in my shows, and I think they were like musicals, but I actually will never forget, because my world was like, you know, as I said, my dad, jazz piano, the classics, and my granddad was a saxophonist, and I'll never forget, I got my first ever C playlist on BBC Radio 1 Extra when I was about 14. And it was with DJ Target. And I went on the phone to have an interview with him. And I was 15, obviously still in school, Buffon High School. And he went, oh, so you know, where does your love for music come from, right? And I was so shy and I was so nervous, and I'll never forget, on BBC Radio 1 Extra, when I just loved High School Musical. I was like, as if I have this love and passion passionate for music, and I am out here on BBC Radio 1 Extra reciting Troy and Gabriella. Like, there's nothing
But
to
it
do.
was age appropriate.
Right, okay.
It was
I panicked.
Well, you could have said something so left that's not, it's not so bad.
It's quite bad, but it's
I
fine.
actually still enjoy watching that with my children, so it's all
No,
good.
it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
But that was nowhere near what my music sounded like,
No.
especially not the song that just been playlisted.
And definitely not DJ Target's caption.
It was like, I went back because I phoned it from my mum's car because our house is so noisy. I've got 2 younger brothers and an older sister. I went back into the house and they were all just looking at me like, well, what can they say? I'm 15, I don't know any better. I was pan nervous. Anyway, I'll never forget that, so yeah.
So, speaking of that time, did you write that song yourself, or was you doing covers mostly? Like, when did you discover you could write?
So I used to do poems.
Yeah.
I like poems, and these poems were not good, but they were poems. I was quite the poetic young Tallia, and I got my big break when I handed my demo tape to Sir Elton John's partner.
Yeah.
And the older I get, the more surreal the story becomes, because I mean,
Elton
obviously
John.
I've told this story my entire life,
Yeah.
but I feel like now that I'm now 26, I'm like, oh my goodness, Elton John called my mobile. Like, it's the whole thing is surreal. So that was my big break at 13. But I think it was only, I'm only now really finding my feet.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, he said 2 things. He said, success is a 1,000 fathers. And he said, it's going to take you a good 10 years to even begin.
Yeah.
Now, at 13, I was like, this is insane. Like, I was like, no, I'm going to do it before that. And then obviously by 15, I've got a song playlisted. But when I tell you, I had 1 gazillion almost moments. And I think it's only now I really do realise that it is divine timing, and you weren't ready. No matter how ready you thought you were, you've got to go through all that to really find your sound. And I think even now, I would say only this year I really have found exactly where I'm meant to be in my artistry and within my own music
I think
space.
it's a growing process, because I think that you grow, your experiences change, so therefore your content's going to change.
Yeah.
Then you've got to work with different producers, you've got to find your sound. I think that, like, you know, exploring jazz and then the R&B, like that, what you do, and then there's probably other genres that you want to play around with. So it'd be nice to hear sort of like a little medley of things, but it's been beautiful to see the progress.
Yeah. And I think self-belief is a big part of it, because, you know, you do go through all these things and then you do really think, goodness, like, I was so close, I've had all these people. Like, Drake's lawyer signed me when I was 15, and we met Drake backstage. He got us to meet him. So I've got all these photos of, like, me hugging Drake.
What age?
15. My mum hugging Drake. He, like, loved my mum, and, like, we gave him, like, a bottle of Scottish whiskey, and it was just, like... So, like, my grandma's popping off.
Yeah.
But, you know, and I signed my first and only ever record deal when I was 15, but within 6 months, I was in Scotland, my A&R got fired, that's just what happens. Whatever.
Yeah.
But that was meant to happen.
Yeah.
And I think when I was younger, I just couldn't really understand. But, you know, it doesn't matter what superstar you think of, everybody has their own tale, and it is survival of the fittest. It's keep going when everything seems perhaps not going your way, but actually it is going your way, and it's guiding you to really where you're meant to be. But I think just with age, it's you've got to believe in yourself and just enjoy it.
Absolutely.
You know, I think people can feel when you're doing things for the wrong reasons or you're not being your true self.
Absolutely.
And I think the day any artist makes it is really when they are themselves. Like Sabrina Carpenter, like I love her. I'm obsessed with her, and I tell everyone, even like when I work with a lot of like young dancers, like up and coming dancers, and I always get them to choreograph all my stuff, and they're always just like, you know, like how, what, when, where, like what does it take? And I'm like, you know, if there's one role model, I would say Sabrina, and she's got, this is her 6th album, and now she's the biggest star in the world.
Yeah, it took some time.
And that was with, you know, Disney and the biggest record companies. It still took 10 years.
Yeah, because you have to win the minds and the hearts of the people, not the industry. The industry can sign in, there's only so much they can push, but people have to receive you.
And I think it comes down to you've got to actually win yourself in terms of people can feel when you're not being your true self.
Yeah.
And we are all energy, and you know, regardless of what it is, we accidentally self-sabotage ourselves every day, and it's something that I deal with, and it's something that I am very holding myself accountable, especially for 2025, because we can all want something, but if we're feeling self-doubt and we're feeling something completely different, it can take you back 10 years.
Energy never lies, and again, it's how the affirmations that you give yourself daily, how you speak to yourself. If you don't tell yourself, you know, that if you don't give yourself uplifting comments and words of wisdom, then you're not going to go out and perform and be your best. But I think it's so easy in this day and age to self-sabotage because you're under a very you know, the way that people take people in the social media, you're under a microscope. Yeah. Everything you do. Yeah. Like, how does that feel? Knowing that like every move is watched, and you know sometimes a lot of people are preying on your downfall. Yeah. But have you had that kind of experience where you know you're just more worried about what people think rather than what you think?
Well, I actually think that the hardest thing is probably your own microscope compared to the world's microscope or the internet. And we all talk about, God, you know, we've never had so many eyes on us. We've never had a situation where we're posting it every day for other people's validation. But actually, I think we are way harder on ourselves. Yes. And when people say, God, I've seen your comments, like, I get a lot of hate comments, but I'm like, yeah, on my videos that are in millions. So if I'm getting millions of views and I'm getting 1,000 hate comments, that's relative.
It is relative.
Like,
it's like 0.1% or something like that. It's not even.
I don't care.
Yeah, I think that there needs to be more people talking like this so that they can understand that don't take yourself too seriously and don't take people's comments too seriously either, because sometimes it's more about them than it is about you. Yeah. So you have to look at your own choices and through your own lens. Otherwise, it's not going to work out.
How are you treating yourself? Like, look at the effort we go to impress a guy. You know, and we're sending screenshots and he said this, what should I say? What are the screenshots you're sending to yourself of what you're saying to yourself in your head?
That's true.
Make them better.
Make them better.
And watch your life change.
I like that. I can see that as a visual.
Do you know what I mean?
I can see that in the music video. Do you know what I mean? A very uplifting one. But yeah, that's a good shout. So
that's what I'm working on. I'm holding myself accountable to be like, we need to be nicer up here to me and myself. And
I think we should have an accountability group.
Yeah. Yeah. And,
we'll check in with you in 6 months' time.
Oh God, please,
see how it's going for you.
Oh God.
So, all right. So we've covered a little bit about your childhood in terms of like where you're at now. What are you most excited and looking forward to in 2025 apart from being the bigger, bolder Tallia Storm?
The music do the talking. I've never been in a situation where I have such a catalogue ready to be released. Yeah. And I think a lot of people talk about this, like, you can have singles, you can have songs you've done, but do you have a body of work? And I do, and I can't wait to kind of not even roll that out, just release them and like really let the music do the talking. I'm so proud of it. I had the best time recording them and just let people really hear me as an artist for the first time, I think.
So any collaborations we can listen out for?
There actually is one.
Oh,
and it's ridiculous.
Guy or girl?
It's a guy. And he's American. Oh. I'm such a big believer in like, don't say it until it's happened.
Don't say it then.
The amount of times I've said stuff and then next thing you know
something happens.
Yeah, and I'm like, the karma's on me for opening my big mouth.
We can discuss it offline.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm joking though. I'll let you keep that one until it comes.
Yes, I'm really excited about that.
Okay. And any producers that you've been working with?
So I worked with Camper. A lot of people know as DJ Camper, and I always just call him DJ Camper, but it's just Camper. And I adore him. He worked obviously on the Flow album. Yes. Doja Cat.
Yes.
So he's just brilliant, and it was amazing to see him. And worked with a guy called Noe Corona who did my vocals in LA, and obviously I did it at Jason Joshua's studio. And Jason has changed my life in more ways than he knows. He supported me since I was so young. Yes. He's a sound engineer and he's the best. He did Rosalia, Malamente. He's a single ladies and everything, but Malamente is like one of my favourite songs, so I just always reference that song. Yes. So look, I've never been in a situation where I have been in a room with these superstars. Yes. They're all superstars. You walk in and there's like 16 Grammys just sat there and you're like, you know what a privilege to be in this room. Yeah. It doesn't even matter what happens next. No. I've been here, I've recorded in this room. And like, we were at the studio and then you've got like Tricky Stewart walking in and out, you've got like Mario walking in and out. I'm like, this is not real!
Did you ever have a case of imposter syndrome? Like, or not really? Or was it more overwhelming?
You know what it was?
Yeah.
It was a moment when I was really sat there and I was recording in the songs, I was singing them, and everyone was looking at me and like, praising me. Like, in a good way, like, wow, oh my goodness, that's amazing. And I thought to myself, wow, like, if only you knew, if only your younger self knew that you are good enough. Yeah, does that make sense?
That you are the star,
because
that you are the bag.
I think we all put on a front, and you know, I've got all my friends are creative and in entertainment, and I think that is what comes with being an artist and a creative person. I'm not just talking about music, I'm talking about the whole artistic spectrum of like, God, is it enough? And you know, just constantly keeping this wheel moving instead of actually stopping and being like, yeah, I have made it this far.
Yeah.
Like, all of these things I did, you know? So maybe it is imposter syndrome, but in that moment I just felt it was like...
It's almost like a pinch me moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it was like, just, if only you believed in yourself, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like we said, you just gotta feel that energy of being in these rooms and being like, wow, I really have made it. And that was my first, oh my goodness, I've made it moment.
Yeah.
You know?
And making it on your own rights as well, because I know you've got a really supportive family and a very supportive unit, but being able to step out and achieve your own goals, I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, your mother and your father, you said, is a musician. Your mother, she got a musical background?
Yeah, she's in branding, so she's real momager since like day one. So she has built me, she's made me, and I owe everything to her.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when I was growing up, everyone would be like, you know, oh my goodness, it's, you know, it's the mum and, you know, this, that and the other. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah. I am so lucky to have my mum. You know, it doesn't matter what happens. If I'm like crying one day or moaning or this hasn't gone right, her whole mantra is get up and go again. Like, she is the strongest woman, the fieriest, a work ethic like no other. She still works 7 days a week. Like, it doesn't matter what time of the day it is, she'll be on her kitchen and laptop working.
So this is just my little acid test, but what star sign is mum?
She's a Libra.
What star sign are you?
Scorpio.
Okay, so you're both quite near to one another.
We're very near, but I think that I am like fiery, blunt, this is what we need to do.
Yeah.
So perhaps glass half empty, right? But brutal and we get it done.
Yeah.
Whereas my mum is very, the Libra, they're the balance, they're the scales.
Yeah.
So she's very like, okay, but the benefit for her is she's the opposite of me in terms of everything is positive, everything is amazing, it's going to work out.
Yeah.
So she has definitely made me a way better person than I am in terms of her whole thing is, her whole life, she just gives with no expectation of return. And she always says to me that when you give and you don't want anything back, that's giving.
Yes,
right. Whereas if you help anyone and you expect something back, that doesn't count.
No, it doesn't.
So that's her whole, like, that's just been her whole life.
It's that karmic circle that, like, you know, when you give with not the intention to receive, it still comes back to you because you've given without the intention to receive. And
she got a CBE from Prince William for her fashion and textiles in Scotland. And it was crazy because never in a million years did she think she'd get a CBE, but it was literally 10 years of helping young, up-and-coming Scottish fashion talent.
Do you know
and
what?
Scottish
We've
industry.
spoken a bit off camera about your mum in fashion, and we mentioned Daniel Lissamore. Yes, and so I know that he's been in the circuit. Your mum's been in the circuit in the fashion world for a long time. So you've been kind of immersed in creativity from that perspective for a long time. So has that influenced the way that you produce your visuals?
Yeah, I mean, I was at the British Fashion Awards at Royal Albert Hall last week.
Yeah.
When I tell you I lost count of the amount of designers, like big designers coming up to me going, OMG, how's your mum?
Wow.
I need to thank her. How's your mum? I need to thank her.
That's amazing.
Because she helps everyone when they're no one, when there's no gain for her. She's just doing it because she sees talent and she believes in it.
Yeah.
And that's why when anyone comes for me trying to slag me off about my mum, I'm like, my mum is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And
you wouldn't be here without her.
And you have no idea, but also I don't feel like I need to explain myself.
Right.
Like, okay, you think that. That's
right.
on you.
Entitled to your opinion.
Yeah.
But that's my mum.
You know?
So piss off.
And anyone comes for her, they need to go through the Scorpio first.
Yeah, I feel like you're a Scorpio cusp Sagittarius because
you know what?
I feel like you are. Yeah. I can feel the fire.
I know.
It's basically because you're wearing red. I don't know.
There is some fire.
Yeah, there's a lot of fire.
This is why I'm single, guys. But you know what? We've got a goal.
So, in regards to inspirations outside of your evident mother, any musical inspirations or anyone you mentioned Erica Badu as well, anybody else that's really inspired your career?
Right now I'm obsessed with Leon Thomas. Like, oh my goodness, I actually thought he was going to be number 1 on my Spotify, but he was actually number 2. But anyway, this man, I can listen to him on loop. He's an album guy.
Yes.
And I think that's what I want to be as an artist. Like, if you even think of like Tyler the Creator, you know, and I think these listening parties and they're selling out arenas just to come and listen to the album. Like, I think like I feel like that's when you're like you're an artist, you know, when you can just put out an album and you've done it. So I love Leon Thomas, I love Sasha Keeble, I just love my R&B, but there's two sides of me. I'm either super R&B, Brent Faiyaz, Leon Thomas on loop, or I'm like proper rap and I've got like nines on loop and like
big up nines.
like a pot of paper, like proper like British, like obviously.
I love that you're mentioning the British. Do you like a bit of scraps?
Well, the thing is, I feel like I'm new to scraps. because I'm from Glasgow.
That's true. So you're doing well anyway.
So
you know,
when
yeah.
I feel like I associate music to eras of my life.
Okay.
So when I was in LA in summer, I was Leon Thomas, I was listening to Camper, and that was like the era.
Yes.
Last year, I was like Brent Faiyette's Heartbreak era. So now I listen to Brent, and I'm like, OMG, it brings back all these emotions.
Yeah.
But
It's nostalgic.
I love tying albums to a moment of my life.
Yeah.
So last year, like Nines was my top #1 on Spotify Rap.
Wow.
But that was because I did Crop Circle 3. And I was in Scotland doing my radio show.
Okay.
And I think Meek's Manny was #2 because at the start of the year I had these friends in Manchester and I kept going to Manchester and they were always playing Meek's. And now I listen to Meek's, you know, Can't Stop, Won't Stop, and it reminds me of Manchester, but it's not necessarily.
No, from Manchester, but it's just like that time where you was. It's like
Yes,
when you're on
where was.
holiday and you hear a song,
Yeah.
you're like, but when we went to Iron Apple, at the time they was playing gigs, talking the hardest.
Yeah.
And so now every time I hear that, I just think
It
of Napa.
brings you back. So
Yeah.
I love, you know, as my dad always says, it's not good to live in the past, but I love associating songs to that. So when I listen to Nisa, I'm like, OMG, Crop Circle 3, I did the film, and I wasn't a proper Nines fan before Crop Circle 3.
But it's
then
amazing what they churned out those crop
suddenly I was in its film and
Yeah.
I'm like, OMG,
Yeah.
I love it, you know?
How did that feel, like crossing over to do a little bit of acting?
I look back on that sometimes. Me and my brother, because he's a big Nines fan,
Yeah.
we'll put it on the TV and we'll just might get drunk. And it's the funniest thing because I'm like, OMG, I don't think I realised how sick that was at the time.
I think we're going to see a bit more. Do you think we're going to do a bit more acting?
Yeah, for sure.
I
for
think
sure.
so. I can see you being a Bond girl or something.
You know what?
Yeah. I bet you can feel that.
Yeah. I think that's got to be the funniest story. As if my first ever acting thing was for Nines Crop Circle. That will make me laugh forever.
Oh, amazing.
And
Something
also,
you can show the children and the grandchildren.
Yeah, and like me, like being a married Alhan, like that's hilarious. So like, yeah, get that on the show reel.
Yeah, for real.
Anyway, so
amazing.
I've got my either Lover Girl or my like British rap, and that's like I'm like very bipolar with it, but slay.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to female empowerment.
Yes.
But you mentioned your stint in LA, or you
Yeah.
go to and fro, and as you may or may not be aware of some of the news happening around sort of like female safety in these spaces. How do you feel about women in the music industry and you know them having safer spaces to work in? I mean, I know you collaborate with men and women, and don't we all? But do you feel like it's something that there needs to be more emphasis on it, or?
Yeah, definitely. But I think everything in good time,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it is perhaps sad that these are just standards. Like I wouldn't go to the studio on my own.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
But we're just used to these types of things.
Yeah.
But if you take a step back, is that right? The amount of precautions you have to go to just in case. Now I have had a very lucky, very amazing time that I've never been in any bad situation, and I'm so grateful for all the amazing people I've worked with. But I know a lot of people that haven't had that privilege of having a good experience.
Yeah.
So, you know, of course, wouldn't it be nice to get to a place where, you know, young girls don't have to, you know, rally up a group of girls to go to the studio because they want to be a pop star.
Yeah.
Of course, that's the end goal.
Of course.
But
there's a lot of people that will be preying on that
correct.
You know.
And I think the thing is, I am fiery, so I know that if I'm ever in a situation, I am able to handle myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that not a lot of people don't have that.
That's
so
right.
I think it is our job, the ones that are more fiery and more confident, when they get to a certain stage, to be like, actually, hang on a minute, what can I do to look after the people up and coming up?
Yeah.
So I take my hat off to everybody coming, especially Ray. I think she's been a really good advocate for paving a new way for what the standards should be and how they should be.
Yeah.
But you know, at the same time, music industry is, no matter what way you want to look at it, it is transactional in terms of certain producers work with you because of your status, and it's very difficult to get a higher level producer to get to you if you don't have that status or the numbers.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, I think it's amazing what a lot of females are doing, but I think we definitely have a long way to go.
Especially coming up in the industry, you know, you never network vertically, you always network horizontally, because if you go for people that's on your level, then you can all rise together. Whereas if you're trying to get up there, then the likelihood of somebody maybe taking advantage of you is going to be higher. So I do feel as though that there needs to be more people talking about the safety precautions you should take and can be taken. Never go to the studio alone. Or if you've got a mama job, bring her. You know, bring her along.
And I think something that is very real is the difference between being a girl pop star and a guy pop star is nowadays if you find someone on Instagram and you follow them as a guy pop star, they're like, wow, we should work. As a girl pop star, it's like, wow, let me take you for drinks. And it's like, oh man. But then, you know, the other side of it is, well, you know, you're hot on Instagram, so what do you expect? Now, I know that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I know that is what I put out there, and as my mum always says, well, what do you expect? And that's fine.
Yeah.
But we definitely should aim to get to a place where actually
can we just,
I am hot.
I'm hot, but can you respect me as a businesswoman as well? Like, in appropriate time, everything in its place.
Yeah.
I think like if the gram is about your business, but your business is also about looking good.
Yeah.
But that's your brand.
Yeah.
So, but then you're there as a business because that's your profile is a business profile or a musician or creative profile.
Yeah.
So in the right space, so if like you're out in a party, that's the place maybe, you know, you'd expect to get approached, not just like random DMs, but it is what it is, isn't it?
So I think that is part a shame where you know, Instagram is such a good tool to find people and network. You know,
Absolutely.
you can find people all around the world.
Yeah.
And send them your music. But the downside it is, you know, if you do put out a certain look, i.e. I think a lot of people are surprised that I've got brains, straight A student, and I'm a businesswoman. So I dare you.
Love your feistiness and your forwardness and your creativity. It really transcends through. So before we go, we like to ask all of our guests one special thing, which is their favourite F word. What's your favourite F word, Tallia?
No, it's definitely fucking fuck. It's not just fuck, it's fucking fuck. That's what me and my mum...
It's a double F.
Yeah. Me and my mum, on the phone call, fucking fuck. Like, it's a very Scottish thing, and we might even emphasise the Scottish in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you ever hear me and my mum and I call it fucking fuck.
Oh, that is amazing. Yeah. Well, we can't beat that, can
you know,
we?
straight to the point, do you know what I mean? But yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming through. We wish you all the success for the new year, beautiful Christmas, and all the best luck with your Christmas single.
Thank you so much for having me. I love Femme Fatale.